book. It's called Kids Are Americans Too. I read the book. I think it should be called Parents Are Americans Too. Anyway, it will be number 3 in the New York Times bestseller list this Sunday. We always enjoy having Bill with us. We don't always agree, but we always are happy to have him on the program. Please welcome back Bill O'Reilly.
Happy birthday to you! Look at that!
Thank you, yes. People are going to say
and I want that Elmo deal, too.
People are going to say about Florence and Bill O'Reilly. What do you say about that?
Well, I say, of course I did.
They're beautiful,
of
right?
Of course, they're gorgeous and very, very festive.
Festive is a word.
Thank you, Bill O'Reilly. How you doing?
I'm all right. Good. You know, causing trouble like always.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So listen, I read this book, and what bothers me is because I very often don't agree with you. I think I agree with almost everything you said, and I find that very depressing. What is happening to me?
This is a total act. This woman hangs on my every word, Barbara Walters. All right? She's in, she agrees, but, you know, she's in that New York society thing. You know what that is, Joy.
I don't know anything about
it. Please. What kind of a kid were you?
I was a little thug.
Good.
Yeah, I was
When
a thug.
did you unthug yourself? What were you like?
You know,
look how cute you were.
I think. Look at what?
Very Bobby Rydell.
Yeah.
Very Bobby
Excellent.
Rydell.
Bobby Rydell. That's exactly who I wanted to look like.
Well, you do.
Yeah. Bobby Rydell was in Bye Bye Birdie, for those of you who are 87 years old, like Whoopi and myself. I was a kid. I was raised in Levittown, out on the Burbs. Thank you. And it was a big ethnic suburb, and my father, he was my rule, be back when the street lights are on. That was my rule.
Oh,
so they didn't know any idea what I was doing or where I was going and who I was hanging out with.
Okay, but so what you say again and again in this book, and there are some great questions raised, is that the parents need to have more control over the kids. Your parents obviously didn't know where you were.
Well, it was a different time, right. My father was working a lot, and my mother, she was a physical therapist, but it was a different time. Look, I wrote this book for one specific reason. Kids are getting bullied like crazy now. They're getting bullied. And, you know, here's really interesting. This is fascinating. You know who's getting bullied the most in school now? The gay kids and the kids from religious or conservative homes. Those are the two groups that are getting bullied on the internet in the school year.
Are they bullying each other? Because it sounds like they're enemies.
The pendulum has swung so far. It's the Britney wannabes who are cool. It's the stoners who are cool.
The stoners.
And it's the kids who come from religious, if they go to church, they're mocked. And the gay kids.
But you raise a lot of questions here that you look at, and I don't know who has the right answer, and that's why I said it's a book really almost as much for parents.
Because for parents.
One of the things that you raise is the first topic: does a mother have the right to eavesdrop on her daughter's telephone conversation, especially if she's worried? Does she?
Of course she does.
Well,
you know,
wasn't there a case where?
But it was we're living in a world now where there's a struggle. I mean, this goes back to the culture war that I wrote about in Culture Warrior. Their parental authority in the courts is that you can set boundaries in your home, that you can tell your child this is what you can do and this is what you can't do. You have the right to do that under our Constitution. But there are people that say, well, there are so many bad parents that society should set those boundaries. So this is a case in Seattle where a 14-year-old girl was going out with a 18, 19-year-old felon. And the felon beat up a grandmother, and the girl was talking to the felon about the crime. And the mother was listening to the conversation because she knew her daughter was hanging around with this bad guy. Now, the police chief brought the mother in to testify against the guy who beat up the grandmother, which she did. And the guy got convicted. They threw it out, saying that the mother violated the confidentiality and privacy of her 14-year-old daughter. This is how insane things have gotten in this country.
But also the daughters can say, how dare you listen in on me? I'm not going to talk to you.
Then you take the TV and computer away for 3 weeks. If they ever talk to you like that,
now,
you got to set boundaries. You have to
protect people from being eavesdropped in other situations. I mean,
14-year-old doesn't have the same rights as an adult. Okay, then that's what Kids Are Americans Too. This book gives kids, they know their rights. That you don't, if you're a kid, you don't have to be bullied. You don't. If somebody does that, immediately you report that. But you don't have the same rights as your parents do or adults.
Well, so now, do you have to sort of change the name of the book because you're kind of American citizens? You're not.
You are American citizens.
You're not. But if you're saying, I love my flowers, by the way. But if you're saying you don't have all the rights of your parents as the adults, I think you have to sort of when kids first show up, you have to put those guidelines out. Our parents we knew what was expected of us as soon as we were able to walk. But I think parents don't know anymore
Well, they have to set guidelines if they want their children to be productive, good people.
Let me ask you a question. Do you agree with Hillary Clinton when she says it takes a village? Because
I think that the neighborhood should look out for you. In my neighborhood in Levittown, if I did something
ladies
wrong,
and gentlemen,
Mrs. O'Malley was on the phone. Little Billy just set the house on fire, you know, and I knew there were a lot of eyes in the neighborhood.
Sharon has a question that we talk about all the time.
Takes a village or the government village. I want to know what village she's talking about.
Village in the neighborhood.
I don't know.
So I think that the neighborhood has to cooperate.
I want to know about, you said in your book, if a child, if a person wants to raise their child in a certain religion, and they say, no, I want to be a Wiccan mom.
Right.
Do they have a right to say, I don't want to be?
No, you lock them in the basement right away. No Wiccans in the house if you don't want to. You can't force a child to believe anything, but you can say, family's going to church and you're coming. You can do that because you are the responsible person.
But aren't you bullying your child into
Oh,
being
no,
religious?
heavens, no, don't bully your child.
Well, I mean, why would you bully somebody into going to church if they don't want to go?
Because the kid doesn't have the right to set the agenda in the house, Joy.
Right.
If we're all going to church and out to breakfast, you're coming. I'm not leaving you home.
Oh, well, that's different. That's different.
There you go.
Okay, listen, don't outshout me, okay?
What if the kid goes to school, the pants are down to here?
You're talking louder.
they're
It doesn't
wearing
make
a
you
good
right.
dress. You just try to tell your kid the kid can't dress that way. You say they have to.
That's right. I mean, if the kid wants to dress like a stripper, you have the right to say, no, you're not leaving the house that way. I mean, come on. It's just common sense.
But do keep in mind that many of us, thug and thugette, dressed similarly.
Not me.
Oh, listen, I saw you had that little pompadour
I had
thing
the little
on.
hair going on.
Your folks said, look, I don't know why you got all that stuff in your hair.
Okay.
Look at that, come on,
But
man.
no spandex in my house.
Okay.
I mean, my father was a tough guy.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was spandex, you go, up to the room.
Yeah.
So I think you have to be reasonable with your
How
children.
old are your kids?
All right? 4 and 8.
You got a little way to go.
Oh, just wait.
You got a little way to go. Come back when they're teenagers.
That's what
Come
they
back
all say.
anytime you want. But in any event,
That's it?
What do you mean that's it?
I don't know. You're older than, 4 and 8. I'm just saying.
that's all I'm saying. Come back whenever you want. He has an adorable wife, by the way.
It just means I'm very virile.
Oh, yeah.
Make your own choices. Everybody in our audience is going home with a copy of Bill's book.